Okay, real talk. Should you rent or should you buy? It's one of the biggest money questions out there. And right now, with prices continuing to rise, interest rates doing gymnastics, and rent climbing faster than you could ever imagine, the answer feels more confusing than ever. You've probably heard it all. Renting is throwing money away. Buying is the American dream. If you're not a homeowner by 30, are you even adulting? Yeah, no pressure, right? But the truth is, the smart choice isn't the one people shout the loudest. So today we are cutting through the noise, running the numbers, and talking about what is actually best for your life and your money. This is not your typical buy now before it's too late episode. This is real rent versus buy breakdown that you have all been waiting for. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror, and thanks for joining me today as we continue to work to improve the one thing that we can control, ourselves. Here at the Financial Mirror, it is not about the numbers and spreadsheets alone, but about transforming and educating you on money so that you can make smarter financial decisions. If this is the first time you're joining in, don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified of all the new episodes as they release. If you're listening to us on Rumble, don't forget to follow the channel and like the video. And on any podcast platform of your choice, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. So today we are tackling one of the most debated money questions out there. Should you build equity and settle down, or should you keep things flexible and mobile? In other words, should you buy or should you rent? I want to go beyond these cliches and I want to get into real life decision making so we can talk about what actually is the best option for people depending on their situation. Now, I will preface this by telling you that this is very much personal, and where you are in life financially, with your job, all of these things, with your family even, all of these things matter to which one of these is better for you. Now, we're going to go through and break down pros and cons so that you can truly understand. Some say renting is like lighting your money on fire, and others say buying is like locking yourself in a 30-year cage with HOA fees. But both of those are extreme cases, and neither of those have to be true for you. What I want to talk about today is just that. What is the pros and cons, and how can you apply those to your life? So this episode's for you, no matter if you're thinking about moving, if you're feeling stuck, or if you're wondering, should I rent, or are these rent checks holding me back? Let's get to it. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the biggest myth out there. Renting is throwing money away. Many people say it. Many people believe it even, but no, it's not. And I'm going to tell you why it's not. And I wanted to start with this up front because everyone says that. Rent is the cost of housing, right? Think about if you didn't pay rent. If you didn't pay rent, where would you be? Homeless, right? Rent is just the cost of your housing. Just like food is the cost of not starving, right? Like, you don't go off and be like, well, if I didn't, you could grow your food, right? But buying food is the cost of not starving. Rent is the cost of not becoming homeless. It's housing. So rent is just paying for access, just not equity, right? Just not equity. And that's okay when it fits your goals, okay? So I want to start with that, is that this idea that rent is throwing money away is probably what leads most people to want to purchase a home, and many times prematurely, because they feel like they are just lighting their money on fire, throwing it away, getting rid of it, and they could be using it for better purposes. But depending on your goals depends on should you rent or should you buy. And if you are renting and it fits your goals where you are right now, and we'll get to some of the details in a moment, but where you are right now, you are not throwing money away. You are just paying the cost of not becoming homeless. Okay. Now, we don't call food, gas, or insurance wasted money. We don't own them, but we need them, right? And is in when you were thinking about rent, rent is a service. It gives you a roof, it gives you privacy, it gives you location, it gives you peace of mind. It's just a cost. And owning a house is like owning a car, renting is like an Uber, right? Like it both gets you to where you want to go, but different costs, different responsibilities, right? Because if you Uber, there is no car maintenance, there is no fuel costs, there is no breakdowns. Well, might be there's a breakdown. It's a really bad day for you and the Uber driver. But it's just the cost. It's just cost and responsibilities, right? And I just want to get that out there because that is where a lot of emotional pressure comes from. And we are taught to believe that renting should be temporary or renting is less than if you don't own a home. But for many, it's actually the smarter, more strategic long term move, depending on where they're at. So let's run through some pros and cons because now that we've really talked about probably the biggest reason that people don't or shouldn't, let me say, shouldn't go into purchasing a home so quickly is that rent is not throwing money away. Many people are probably turning this episode off now because they're like, well, I feel good now, right? And if that's the case, cool, turn it off because what I care about is that you're making good financial choices. And if I've convinced you that renting is not throwing money away and you're renting, good for you. Now, if you do want to find out when you should buy, stick around. Okay. So pros and cons, and I'm just going to rapid fire through these because, I just want you to be able to hear them and I want you to be able to know they exist. But starting off with renting, I'm going to go renting pros and cons and then buying pros and cons. So renting pros, mobility. When you can leave when your lease ends. For as long as your lease is there, you can be there. And if your lease ends, you can deuce out, right? There's no selling, there's no showings, there's no nothing. You just live there. There's low commitment. So it's perfect if your life is still evolving. If you have your career is just getting kicked off, maybe you're just getting into a serious relationship, maybe you're not sure if you're going to live in a single location or not. Maybe you're going to be moving potentially as you're trying to find your footing. Low commitment when you're renting. This is good. Predictable cost. There's no surprise roof leaks. There's no broken appliances. HVAC systems will absolutely demolish a savings account. You don't have to worry about it. That's your landlord's problem. So predictable cost being that third pro for renting. Minimal hassle. Think about things like lawn care, snow shoveling, repairmen to chase, landscapers, all of those things. They are not your problem. Now, some leases, maybe lawn care is your problem. Some leases, maybe snow shoveling is your problem. You may still have to change a light bulb here or there, but minimal hassle, right? Not no hassle, minimal hassle. Still a pro. If this was your home, it would all be yours. Renting cons. There is no long-term return for your rent, right? You're paying for space and time. You're not building wealth, right? You're paying for the ability to have a roof over your head. You're not building wealth with that structure, right? Uncertainty. Landlords can raise rent. Landlords can sell the place. Landlords, maybe they won't renew your lease and you have to move, right? Like all of those things are possible and that leads to uncertainty. Now, I am going to tell you that good tenants often don't get kicked out by their landlord. So be a good tenant. If you are renting, just be a good tenant, right? When I've got good tenants, let me tell you, they are like gold. So I am going to make sure that I take care of them. I'm not going to raise their rent unnecessarily. I'm definitely not going to kick them out, potentially fill them with someone that's not a good tenant, right? So there is some uncertainty, but just know being a good tenant is in your favor, okay? Limited personalization. Yes. Do you want to paint your walls navy blue? Well, your landlord might not like that. Maybe they will let you, but you have to pay it. You have to get them repainted back to the color they were when you leave, right? Like there's little things like that, but there is limited personalization that you can do. Now, buying. Biggest pro in buying, obviously, is you own a share of your home each and every month that you pay it down, right? You own a little bit more of your home each and every month that you pay it down. Eventually, it's yours outright, right? But there is equity growth that happens. There is stability. When you lock in that fixed rate mortgage, you have a fixed rate on your home, right? You have a fixed rate on your home. And that helps when it comes to long-term planning, right? Creative control, that personalization. You have the ability to renovate, you can expand your home, you can customize your home, whatever your heart's content, you own that home. And I'm going to do an episode on this in the future, but I think it's a great time to bring this up. The creative control, it also matters because of resellability of your home. You got to keep your house marketable. I'll tell you, when we were getting a concrete our slab extended in the back, um they were like, hey, do you want to put this design in the concrete? And me, I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty cool, actually. Like, I think that's pretty neat. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, but if I had 10 buyers looking at my home, only one of them may want this really cool design in their concrete, right? So now I've taken 10 potential buyers and dropped it down to that I'm actually now only selling to one. So I said, nope, keep the design. So just think about that when you're buying. I am going to do an episode on it in the future, so just be on the lookout. But creative control, within its own limits. Another buying pro is potential appreciation. Yes, your home does increase in value over time. Hopefully, it doesn't have to. It is an investment. There is no requirement that your home grow in value, but the idea is that it does grow in value, and that definitely contributes to your overall building of your net worth. Okay. Buying con, yes, upfront costs, probably the biggest detractor from people becoming homeowners is upfront costs. You have down payment, you have closing fees, you have inspection costs, you have all of those things before you even get keys to your home. So very, very, very costly as an initial upfront cost. Now, there are loan options out there that can help get into a home easier. However, that is a con. For rent, what is it? You have to pay a security deposit or something on the front end and you're in, right? Maybe you have to pay 1 month rent as a security deposit, something. More than likely, take care of it, be a good tenant, you get that back though, right? So big con for buying. Another big one, responsibility. If it breaks, you fix it, right? Or pay someone who will. If your HVAC goes out, you've got $15,000 that you're about to drop out of a savings account, right? It's yours. It's your responsibility. So be on the lookout for that. Other big con is lifestyle locked in, right? You can't just pick up and go. Selling takes time. Selling takes money. Selling takes just an emotional drain of constantly having people look at your home and having to clean it, take care of it, clean up after the dog, make sure it's always in good order. You're living out of boxes so that you can put everything of yours away so it's, presentable. It's a model home, right? It's not fun to do. So just be on the lookout for that. That is a con, right? That is a con. Now, what does the money say? What does the money say? So let's say you buy a $400,000 home. 20% down of that would be $80,000. If you do a mortgage, 15-year mortgage at, let's say, a 6.25%, you're looking at about $2,600 a month. Now, add in your taxes, insurance, your HOA, you're up $735 for that roughly. Utilities and services, you're up about $500 for that. So let's just say you are spending about $3,800 for living cost, right? For living cost. Now, $3,800 for living cost to put a roof over your head. Compare that to renting a similar home, $2,600 a month, no additional cost. You're saving $1,200 short term. $1,200, right? $1,200. Now, maybe it's a little different, right? Maybe it's $1,000 because maybe you do have to pay for some of your utilities. A lot of times, all utilities are included except for maybe electric normally, but just keep that in mind. $1,200 a month is what you're saving. What is that going toward? Maybe it's going toward investments. Maybe it's going toward a down payment. Maybe it's going towards something, right? Paying off debt. I don't know. But the biggest thing is that you get to save $1,200 in the short term to do whatever that next financial goal is, right? Now, long-term trade-offs for that. After 5 to 7 years, buying can become cheaper, depending on appreciation, repairs, and interest rates. but it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. Housing is an investment. It's not a sure thing. So if you got into a home and your home appreciated drastically and maybe interest rates came down or something like during COVID and you refinance, there's a chance that you could actually start to decrease how much you owe each month. So just keep that in mind. There are some trade-offs long term for buying, but the big thing when it comes to the math is that you can, in most areas, come out ahead every month and renting is still cheaper. And that's not including those unexpected costs that can come with home owning. Okay. There are other hidden costs like annual maintenance on your home. That happens. Don't forget, a home normally comes with bigger yards and things like that. So you have landscaping or maintenance that comes with that, like lawn maintenance that comes with that. And don't ever forget about the hidden cost of your neighbor, right? If you're in a lease and you have a terrible neighbor, you can leave at the end of your lease. If you have a home and you buy it, and I'm going to give you a scenario, you buy it and you have the best neighbors in the world, and then you've been there for 5 years, one of your neighbors sells and moves on, and the neighbors that move in are horrible. Guess what? You're there with the horrible neighbor next door, okay? So just keep that in mind. There are hidden costs that come with the home ownership. So real quick, breaking this down, super easy to understand. Renting makes sense if you're still exploring careers and places to live. You want freedom to move quickly and be agile. You want fewer financial obligations while you're saving or paying off debt. Renting makes sense. If you're in debt, renting makes sense. Okay. Buying makes sense if you plan on staying somewhere for 5+ years. You're okay putting down roots where you're at, whether it be for kids, school, or the community. And you're okay with the maintenance cost and the unpredictability that comes with home ownership. Now, ask yourself these questions. What would I do if my roof caved in tomorrow? It could happen. If you own a home, it could happen. And it's your responsibility to fix. If you rent, you got options. Can I handle not moving for 3 to 5 years? Some people can't. Some people want to move. They want to get to different areas. If that's you, renting is your thing. Do I have time to take care of a house or at least the money to outsource it? If you don't have time to take care of your home will fall apart. It will. It will fall apart. So think about that. Keep that in mind. If you don't have the time to do it, do you have the money to do it, to outsource it to others? Okay. So I want you to go through and I want you to think about those things, because really, and truthfully, when it comes to buying a home or renting, it's really all about what is your position personally and what is your goals financially. Okay. Everybody is different. Everybody's in a different place. So just keep that in mind. Now, here's the 5 things that I would tell you to say that you're financially ready for homeownership. The first one is that you need to be debt free. You don't want to be juggling a mortgage and credit card bills. You need to be debt free. Number 2 is you need an emergency fund. You do not need that mortgage to go delinquent because an emergency came up. If you can't cover 3 to 6 months of living, if something goes wrong, you're not ready. You're not ready to buy. Keep renting. You're not throwing money away. Keep renting. Do you have a down payment for the home? You really need like 10% down, right? Minimum 10% down, 20% if you want to avoid PMI. 10% down minimum. Do you have it? If you don't, you're not ready. You're not ready to rent yet, or you're not ready to buy. You need to keep renting. Can you get an affordable mortgage, right? It should be less than or equal to 25% of your take-home income. It should be. If you can't do that, if you can't get that home, whether that be because of interest rates or because of home prices in your area, you either have to move or you've got to wait for interest rates to come down. But either way, renting may still be in your future. Long-term stability is my last one. And can you stay in one place for the next 3 to 5 years without regrets, right? You need to, if you're going to live somewhere for 1 year, please rent. If you're going to live somewhere for 5 years, really think about it. Renting still may be your best option. Okay. So just keep those things in mind. I would tell you this is that I I think that people are constantly being bombarded with this push for home ownership. And I think it's kind of sad. In a way, I think it's kind of sad for the simple fact that it makes people feel like they can never achieve home ownership. And I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. People saying, I'll just never become a homeowner. And in all reality, that's not true. It's not true unless you believe that, right? Just because you're renting does not mean that you're never going to become a homeowner, right? It doesn't mean that. And it shouldn't mean that unless you believe it, unless you truly believe that and there's no change in your mind. Maybe you're right. Maybe you will rent forever, right? But if you will commit to say, I'm going to live on less than I make, I'm going to save for a down payment, saving $80,000 when you're setting aside 1,200 in savings per month from renting or buying, right? Renting versus buying, you can hit 80,000 fairly quickly. And if you invest it and grow it that way, yes, a little more risky, right? Because the market could downturn and you could have less than you've invested. But there's a chance it grows. And there's a chance that you build it and you go. But if that's too risky for you and you want to buy a home sooner, save it in a high yield savings account. Grow it that way. But don't tell yourself that because you're renting now, that you will never be a homeowner, okay? But here's some of the red flags that I hear that I want you to be on the lookout for. Everyone I know is buying. That's something that I hear people say. Everyone I know is buying a home. It's time for me to buy a home, right? Peer pressure. Peer pressure. People are posting their homes and these new things that they got, and it's pressuring people into wanting to buy a home themselves, even though they're not ready. Keep renting. It will feel better being a homeowner when you can afford it. The other thing that I hear a lot is, well, man, that home right there, like I'll never see that price again. That's a deal that's not going to last long. Scarcity mindset that this deal is one of a kind and I'll never see this home for sale again in this area for that price. Scarcity. Another home will become available, probably better, probably in a better location, probably better features. It's easily possible. Keep renting. If you're not ready, if you went through that checklist that I discussed earlier, those 5 things and you're not ready, hang in there. Keep renting. It's a hot market. I need to get in now. FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Everybody else is getting hot deals everywhere. Fear of missing out will get you, and you'll be in a home that you're just not happy in. And the last one is, I'll figure out the money later. Like, no, you won't. What a commitment. Biggest purchase that most people ever make is their home. And I'll figure out the money later is terrifying. So don't find yourself there, but I would tell you this, don't buy a house because it's trendy. Buy it because it's time for you to buy a house, that it's the right house, that you're ready, and that you've got everything you need, because renting doesn't mean that you're behind. Okay. And buying doesn't automatically make you successful, right? But the right choice depends on your goals, where you are financially, and definitely not someone else's timeline, because where you're at is different than where someone else is. So keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. Don't buy a house because it's trendy. Buy it because it's time for you to buy a house. Like, you have checked all the boxes to be ready to buy a house. So if you're not sure where you land, write down your top 3 financial priorities and ask if a house supports them or detracts from them. And I would tell you that's a good place to start. The other thing that I would do is really go through that checklist of those 5 items. And if you can check all of them off, you're good. You're good to buy a house. You're good to buy a house. As soon as the right house shows up, less than or equal to 25% of your take home pay, you're good. Go for it. Go for it. But it's your money, it's your home, it's your life, and you get to choose what makes the most sense. Not me, not anyone else. It's yours. It's yours to figure out. But many people buy a home and way too early. They buy it and it costs way too much. And they're spending 30, 40, sometimes 50% of their take home pay on a home. And it's called being house poor. Like your house is making you poor. Like you're living paycheck to paycheck because you are in a house that cost you too much, right? For where you were in life. So hopefully this helped you. Hopefully this helps you think clearly about your next step. Leave some comments below. Where are you at? Where are you at in this journey? I'd be curious to see just kind of where you're at and what are those next steps that you're looking for? What's those final check boxes you need to check to be ready to buy that home? But hit like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who's house hunting or possibly feeling pressured. But I would tell you, hang in there. Renting is not a bad thing. Buy a home when you're ready. And with that, I thank you for watching. Until next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.